Purgatory Academy is about heaven, hell, and having 4 years to decide. And within this series, we're trying to provide commentary. I'm gonna read through it and letting y'all know what my process of creating the series was going on in my head while I was making it, and what do I remember. So anyway, with that being said, let's continue. Oh yeah, this is part two. This is the wrong thing. Whatever. Here we go. Let's go. We last leave off with Travis and Jim's parting their separate ways, going to their first period of their class. And we start with the teacher, Marco, saying, all right, class is starting soon. Take out your utensils and your notebook. I'm your history teacher. Just call me Marco. I'm sure that you'll have lots of questions, but we'll only have time to answer the biggest one. We're dead. Why do we have to do more than schooling? More schooling. I'm bad at reading. I apologize. And to that, I answer, because it's a second chance. Okay, that might be a little bit vague, so let's see if I can illustrate it for you. He grips the Marco marker, and we go into a little bit of the lore. Okay, think of it like this. Humans have three spaces in their psyche: the id, the ego, and the superego. Without the id or the superego, humans are very indecisive. Until the fall of man entered the whole world of id, you see a little serpent, little devil thing saying to eat the fruit. You got a banana, and over there. And Marco continues saying, from there, humans increasingly left their superegos as they've grown out of touch with the big man upstairs. The only rules they followed were juggled between carnal instincts and the rules they set upon themselves. There were civilizations who created their own gods, but that was mostly because they needed justifications to act on their ids. Not all gods were created to fill a carnal desire, but to make an understanding of the world around them. The amount of people following their gods were so astronomically high that the big G spoke to Abraham, and Abraham obeyed, which resulted in several generations of super egos being introduced back into the ego, with some resilience from the id, of course. From that point onward, for thousands of years, there's been a battle of influence between the id and the superego, and you have these little MySpace little characters, and you see the old man Abraham with the several descendants, and this little yin yang little graphic that I did. I also like doing these lore dumps, trying to make these lore dumps as visually interesting as possible, because, like I said, I'm a visual guy. So if there's a way that I can make something visually interesting while you read it, I think I did my job pretty well. So Marco continues. The reason why Lucifer chose high school students is because this is the prime time of your lives when you start thinking for yourselves. The students, quote unquote, on the fence, or ones who flat out deny God, are given a second chance here. And moving on, and the student who asks, so the point of this school is forcing us to be everyone's superego? He catches Marco's attention. He says no, but it's up to yourself. It's not up to anyone but yourselves. Now that our little learning detour is over, let's start talking about it as like the text gets smaller and smaller, just to show that we're moving on to a different subject. I gotta do more stuff like that. I think that's like one of the few times I mess with the text, to have that feeling of the conversation drifting away, or the volume is getting lower and lower, so to speak, I guess, if you understand what I'm talking about. And then we go to Travis saying, and just like that, I couldn't escape through the burden of living, even through death. And then he's just thinking to himself, and it's like a monologue, like internal monologue or something like that. Everything ran through how a normal school would. You go through class, you sit down, you shut up until it's over, and then you leave, only to start over. But in this case, you can't leave. You can't stop. The only rest is walking to your next class. There are clocks on the walls, but every classroom I've been to there are clocks on the walls, but every class I've been to have no calendars. I've been watching the hand spinning and the digital clocks twitching so many times I don't even know I've all right. I don't even know if I've been here for a couple weeks, days, hours since the orientation. Now, you don't get fatigued here, but the repetition of all of it is tiring. I wish I stayed in my funeral for a bit longer. I wish I looked at everyone's face before I left. Maybe if I never left, I could still be with their faces every Sunday. I wish. Moving on. And then he says, hey, what's where you going, dumbass? When he bumps into a reoccurring character that he is right now unnamed. But we'll see him in the second book. I wish every hour wasn't the same. Hey, you better watch that nappy ass hair, dumbass. And then everybody's like looking around. They just everybody's like trying to instigate. They look at each other. They're having a moment. And you say, you want to run that by me again? You death? Maybe I am. Say it to my face. I said. And then Jim comes from everybody, from the crowd, saying, don't cause a scene. Our class is gonna start any minute now. Anyone who misses roll call will be thrown into the void for the rest of the period. You don't want that. And the nameless bully said, you better listen to your boyfriend and bounce. And Travis says, nah, I already got a bitch right. Then the bully goes in for a punch, a nasty mean hook. He gets stopped by a cavalcade of flies. And he's like, what the hell? I can't move. Get these things off me. And then here we see the first instance of Vice Principal Beelzebub. And that's as far as and he says, that's as far as I let this transaction will go. I will not have any violence this early in the school year. There are far many things for you students to learn before the next stage. The idea of the Vice Principal Beelzebub came from the translation of Lord of the Flies. So I thought, hey, maybe, yeah, of course. So as original as it is, I make him a giant fly man. And I think in other interpretations, he's considered like a symbol of gluttony within the personifications of the seven deadly sins. So I think it also fits to have him a nice little pretty heavy set guy. So that's a thing. That's also a thing that happened. And I also gave him the power to control flies. So I also thought that was cool. But moving on. It's a shame that this one will spend 3 classes in the void. And he's like, no, get away from me, as he gets slowly devoured by flies. And as he's getting devoured by everybody watching, Beelzebub says, I suggest you all should go to class. There's plenty of room for the void for all of you. And then the bell rings. And then we start off with the next scene, saying, I know this constant, with the new teacher saying, I know this constant rotation without any breaks can feel like a chore. So let's switch things up with a group assignment. Take this as an opportunity to learn about each other. A student raises her hand, saying, don't take this the wrong way, but what if we do? But what if we don't? And the teacher says, then you'll get sent to the void in the next period. Okay. Like didn't give the student any time to reply or to finish her sentence. She's like, nah, you're getting kicked out. You don't follow me by the letter, you're out of here. We don't have time for that. And she continues saying, all right, get into groups of 3. They have a nice little funny moment, looking at each other, nodding at each other. As soon as the teacher says get into groups, when you know, when you had that buddy, you had that buddy. Automatic click up. They having fun, and then Susan comes in saying, "Do you need a third member?" Seems like everybody already have their groups. They look at each other. Travis says, "Take a seat." They get ready, and we have another conversation going back and forth. Also, funny thing is, I put a whole bunch of equations on the whiteboard in the background. I don't know what that means. I don't know what that is. I remember looking up math equations, complex and algebra equations, and I just started repeating everything that I saw, and I just pasted it on the whiteboard just to make it look like busy work, because that's essentially what this phase of Purgatory Academy is. It's just busy work. And we go back to the topic. Susan saying, "This sucks." And Travis saying, it's gonna suck as much as today as it will tomorrow, up until the end of high school. Jim intervenes, saying, you got that right. What can you do about it? Susan's saying, aren't you guys tired of going through this hell? And Jim says, the first answer is 72. Travis replies to Susan, I'm sick and tired of a lot of stuff that goes around here. But why don't? And Susan replies, why don't you do anything about it? What can I do about it? Jim answers the second question to 64. I remember I got all these answers from my favorite TV channels growing up. I remember when I had like DirecTV or whatever, like the Cartoon Network channel was 72, and then when we switched to Time Warner Cable, it was 64. There's another pointless trivia thing for you. Anyway, back to the story. Moving on. Travis saying, I've been thinking about the reason why we don't have free time. I've been thinking that the reason why we don't have free time is because they don't want to give us time to collect our thoughts. So, Susan says, when we don't have time to think, all we can do is follow their orders. Do you ever think anybody has ever start a revolution? Maybe? But Jim intervenes. They're like, what's going on, bro? And Jim says the third answer is 43, which was the channel for Nickelodeon back then. It probably is, but that's so funny how I still remember all of that. But moving on. Take a look at how I got it. Interesting, huh? And it says the walls have eyes. I guess that'll be explained later if I remember correctly. So the walls. He's right. If the eyes, Travis saying he's right. If they have eyes, then you should erase it. Speaking in code, Susan saying, I've noticed that too. Who's been surveilling this place ever if something goes down? Travis replies, now that I think about it, I've never seen a security camera around this place, ever, and there's a reason for that. And the teacher comes in saying whatever you're talking about doesn't sound math related. And Travis is like, we're working on the fifth question. May I take a look? She says, are you having trouble with number 4? You skipped over it. And Travis is like, no, it's an unlucky number for the Chinese. And she's like, are you Chinese? And he's like, nah, I like Chinese culture though. But that was a joke, man. I don't know. I like that joke. If you don't laugh at yourself, who can you laugh at? She's not amused by it, and she just says, just get the work done. Just get the work done, and then the trio goes back to their conversation. Travis is like, why are we here? Jim says, you're solving for I, and I'll get the work done. And I'll get the rest of the work done. Next page. Susan contributes, but what is the I and where? And Travis contemplates about the code word. The walls have eyes and ears. Maybe. Susan jumps in saying, why does this place have a lot of flies? Oh yeah, if you're looking by, you can see a fly buzzing past everybody. And Susan contemplates, why does this place even have flies? It's not like there's any food around here or anything for flies to be attracted to. And he lands on the back of a student's seat. Travis takes a mental note saying, how long have that fly been here? You see the flash of the fly that looks like Beelzebub, and then Jim and Travis, they understand, and they're like, yeah, let's get back to work. We're going off topic. We're being seen. We can be compromised. And Susan's like, what's in the change of mood? Travis tries to explain to her, what did you see what happened in the hall before class? She's like, yeah, I heard a lot of yelling, but I couldn't get past the crowd. Jim says the fifth answer is 57. I think that was probably Disney Channel. That had to be Disney Channel. It's either that or I was just putting random numbers out there. But that was it. Anyway. Susan asks, was there a fight or something? And Travis is like, as he writes down the next answer, Travis says, yeah, I was in it, but a guy with a fly head showed up, and an army of flies stopped him before he could throw the first punch. I think Fly Guy sent him to the void. I don't know. I don't know. I don't even want to be here. He's like, I'm so over it. He's like, I don't know. He's like, that cracks me up. He's like, yeah, a guy got eaten by flies, but I'm kind of over it now. Like, what can I do about it? I'm here to, I'm freaking, actually, no, that makes sense. He's like, I just saw a guy get eaten by a bunch of flies, and now I'm doing math tests. I don't care anymore. Nothing makes sense. That's like, okay, that's, yeah, that feels more in character. It's like, yeah, who cares anymore? It's like, no one's gonna stop this. That's so real. Anyway, Travis says, sometimes I think that maybe the void isn't that bad. Like, if some people are afraid of getting sent to it, I feel like, I'm sorry, I'm a terrible reader. What if people are afraid of getting sent to it because they don't know what it is? It's only bad when they label it as a punishment. What if it's only bad if they only label it as a punishment? So true. And Jim's like, no, you're dumb. Shut up. You're talking crazy, Travis. I've seen people who came from it and they look like post-lobotomy patients. You don't want that happening to you. No, they don't want that happening to you. And then Travis looks back at his paper, which is strangely blank. He said, you're right. So what's the next answer? And Jim says, that's all it is. And she's like, no, you're not. No, it's not. You didn't answer 4. And Jim's like, I've heard somewhere that 4 is an unlucky number. Best not to do it. And Susan's like, you can't be lazy now. We're almost done. And Jim's like, I've been doing most of the work while you and Travis were talking. It's time for the women and the minorities to pull their weight. And he does the whip. That was the most out of pocket, but I was like, you know what? This is kind of out of pocket. This is kind of really weird, but you know what? I'm going to make it work for this. I'm going to make it work for this character. And I do. I feel like I do in the future. Susan like looks at him and is like, what? Did you we all heard that, right? And Travis is like, yeah, the 4th answer is 111. I still think this is part of his character. He's like, I don't care. We're all like, guys, we're all dead. I saw a guy get eaten by flies. We're doing freaking math homework in the afterlife. I don't care about why should I care about a guy who just said women and minorities should pull their weight? We're dead doing math homework in the afterlife. Get over it. And then Travis is like, what? And she's like, whatever. If everything sucks so much, there must be a better way to talk to Lucifer. Forget it. Travis intervenes. It feels like forever since I've had a conversation with anybody. You think you think that they'll let us openly talk to Lucifer? Susan replies, I think they'll let us talk to Lucifer because they're starting to let us talk to each other. I'm sorry that I'm butchering everything like a illiterate weirdo. But if you wanna read this in your own space, you can go check the link in the comment section below, so you can start reading this for yourself and like blaze through it like 10 times better than me. But hey, you don't get this commentary. You don't get this premium quality time one together with this kind of commentary. So, and we're going back to the story. Travis saying, you might be onto something. What's your name? I'm Travis. And then Susan says, I'm Susan. And Jim's like, I'm Jim. I don't care. And we can leave off over here. My thoughts of this whole portion. One thing about me is that I don't like the amount of white space that I had. Like, and I think you could tell this kind of insecurity of not having a background in like my future works, because I usually like to have some sort of texture or some sort of visual stimulant with like in the background, because I just don't like it. I do like how I try to like experiment with the paneling, because this was my very first time trying to make a comic, and as you can also see, all these white spaces in the gutters, it was just it was mostly me not understanding what bleeds were. So there was essentially this an invisible line that is in the box that you can very obviously see over here if you're looking at it. And I did my best not to go outside of the bleed. And I thought like all the panels would like expand to like the edges if I stayed inside that borderline, but it just made everything more condensed in a way. So there's also that. Another thing that I personally did not I don't know. I guess that's pretty much it. The dialogue is pretty. I think the dialogue is pretty good. Um, except for stuff like this. When I wanted like a whole entire background to be a texture like this, I do that a couple more times. I like it. Oh yeah, and another thing that I forgot that I think I'm better at doing is the use of values, because I remember I was in a group call with somebody and they showed me a tip when it comes to values, that some when things are closer to the camera, they are darker, but when they're further away from the camera, they are presented lighter and into the horizon line. And I did not understand this. I have the complete opposite view or understanding when I was working on this, because I guess this panel is like a good example where like you could see like all the characters who are in the foreground, they're the lightest, while the people in the background, they have a darker tint to them. And like sometimes it works, but like the general rule of thumb, and sometimes I do it well here like this, but sometimes there's I try to follow like certain rules, but outside of that, I think this is fine. I feel like I get better when it comes to like the dialogue or characterizations or stuff. But like I said, it's the first of many things to come. And since we're at the end, leave a comment, leave a like, subscribe. You know what to do, and read Purgatory Academy. Links in the below. I also have other stuff. Let's Go My Hero, Just a Reaper, Chimera Island. Yeah, check it out. Peace.